What's up guys, my name is PJ and today I'm going to talk about how to heal sickness using our minds. And I know when you bring up that topic, some people do an eye roll and some people probably clap because it's kind of a controversial topic, but I believe the evidence for that not only has been around for thousands of years. I mean, if you read the Bible and the miracles that Jesus are performing, and really honestly any miracle that's ever been done, it's the use of the mind in healing someone, especially if it's a miracle that relates to healing the sick. You know, Jesus, anytime he would heal someone who was sick in the Bible, he would always say, it was your faith that healed you. And faith comes from the mind. It's a belief. It's a deep belief. It's a absolute certainty, right? And that comes from the mind. So it's a common thing. And right now, people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, and Dr. Bruce Lipton have done phenomenal work to advance this field of knowledge, this idea or this concept of healing your body using your mind. And they have done phenomenal work. So at the end of this video, I will recommend you to some books by them to check out. But basically, this idea has been around. Even though it's been around, it's still somewhat a controversial topic. But that's what we're going to talk about in this video. We're going to talk about how to heal your body using your mind. And basically, the premise here that we're following is that what shows up in your body and ultimately, honestly, life, what shows up in your life is a consequence or byproduct of your mind, of your thoughts. So your thoughts and your mind are that powerful and they give birth to everything in our lives, really. You know, ultimately, when you go down that rabbit hole, you'll discover how true that really is. And I actually have a video on my channel called, you know, when you're a YouTuber, you kind of forget your own videos and their names, but I think it's called The Law of Attraction and How It Works. I'll link it up there so you guys can check it out. A lot of the things I talk about in that video are all about the mind, the power of the mind over the results in our life and the consequences in our life. And so our body is part of is something that could be part of those results that are produced by our mind. So check that video out for even greater context on what we're talking about in this video. But to go back to the topic of the video, healing your body with your mind, I always come back to that quote by Henry Ford that goes something like this. I'll probably put it down here right now. It says something along the lines of, whether you believe you can succeed or whether you believe you will fail, in either case you're right, because he basically is trying to imply how powerful belief is and what we believe in our minds. Now, I want to mention a few kind of pointers, right? General pointers. This doesn't mean don't talk to your doctor, don't go to the doctor. And as a matter of fact, as a part of this video, I want to include that, you know, I recommend, this is not medical advice. I recommend everyone to check with their doctor, because everyone is unique ultimately. We all have different needs. And it's important to tune into ourselves, you know, ask our doctor, ask the Holy Spirit, whatever your process is for decision making and finding that peace about a decision, whatever that is for you, do that, right? So whatever we're talking about in this video is not about, you know, pushing you away from that, but we're just trying to bring priority or attention to what really is, in my opinion, and honestly, I'd say based on fact now, the cause of our healing, which is the mind. I'm just trying to bring attention to that, but I wanted to include that in there before we jump even more deeply into the video, that by no means is this a call against medicine, against supplements, against healing, anything, right? Against going to the doctor, whatever, you know, that the case may be for you. It's not against any of that. We're just trying to bring attention to the mind. So basically, with that premise now set in place, let's talk about changing our mind. If our body is healed as a consequence of us changing our mind, then how do we do that? And what are really the obstacles in our way of not having done that already? So the first thing I wanted to say about that is that we have some deep-rooted programs installed in our minds. It's like these are like habitual patterns of thought, of programs that we run in our mind. And I love computers. I use, I was kind of a geeky kid growing up. So I kind of think of the computer and how it works, the mind of the computer and how it works to understand certain things. And the ways I see these deep-rooted programs is if you open up the activity monitor in your computer, what you may notice is that even though you may only have like 2 tabs open, there is like hundreds of tasks, activities being done in the background of your computer, of your CPU. So even though they're not conscious, they're not in your awareness, they're not on your desktop, the computer is running all these programs. And these programs are producing results. Like one of them is keeping the fan running. One of them is making sure that your internet Wi-Fi, stays connected. One of them is making sure that your desktop keeps the brightness at a certain level. And so these programs are running, but they're out of our awareness. And it's the same thing with our minds. The same way our computer is running all those tasks in the background, our mind is running those tasks in the background as well. And oftentimes, like there are some background tasks that are just like normal, right? Normal human functioning. Like the background task of making sure your heart is beating, making sure your blood is flowing, or whatever it may be. But basically, there are some other background tasks that first start as conscious tasks. So you're thinking about a thought. Let's say a certain worry about a certain thing. So that becomes a conscious thought. And then you keep repeating that worry every day, every hour. You start thinking about the same thing, this worry about future, something something happening. And a lot of us may live in a state like that, at least maybe for a temporary amount of time, like maybe for a 3-month period, you're worried about certain things, so you keep thinking about it. That conscious thought, it starts taking root in your unconscious. And when that starts happening, that's when you start seeing results, these things being manifested. It's like the subconscious or the unconscious is it's the soil, and that it's a fertile soil. I can't say that word. It's a fertile soil. And these ideas are seeds that you're planting in that soil. And the more you think that thought, the more you show up in that state. It's like the more you're watering that seed. So you keep giving it nutrients so that it will take even more of a life. And eventually it will come out of the ground onto the surface of our lives. That's how it's going to manifest. And so that's true about everything, but it's certainly true about sickness, right? So sickness, this idea, this worry has taken root in your subconscious and it's been watered every day, and you've added nutrients to it. You've given it energy. It's kind of like the idea of the wolf you feed is the wolf that gets bigger, which is like so simple, but like that kind of metaphor. This idea, when it becomes big enough, it will manifest in some form. And so it may show up in a certain ailment, a certain sickness in your body, but it's been the result of that unconscious thought that's been watered and has taken root. So I wanted to say that these programs are what's in place and oftentimes are what causing the sickness. That's what giving birth to the sickness, these programs that are running. So the first step, and changing your mind, obviously, if the premise is, if you change your mind, the body will change. That is a simple premise, but doing it is pretty difficult. And it honestly takes a lot of consistency and dedication and effort. But it's certainly better than not doing anything, because that would definitely not produce any results. So the situation here is that it is pretty hard to change your mind because these programs are so deep-rooted, but we can, if we are committed, we can change these programs and overcome them. And through doing so, by changing our minds, change our body, because our body follows our mind and it dictates. So that could so changes in the body could be brought about through a change of our mind. Our physiology can change through our psychology changing first. So that's basically the premise. And the way you overcome those programs is, first, you try to be self-observant. Be observant of your thoughts. What am I feeling? What am I thinking? A lot of times, I think at the beginning of 2020, when the pandemic hit, a lot of people went into a self-observation mode for possibly the first time in a very long time, because we're so busy in our day-to-day habits and routines. And when that was shaken up, it created this gap, this pause for a lot of people to self-reflect. So it became a window or an opportunity into a season of self-observation. So that was an opportunity that was given to all of us, but we can consciously invite that into our own life and get tremendous benefit from it. So being self-observant, it's like opening the activity manager tab on your Windows or Mac computer and then seeing, oh, I didn't even realize this task is being done, and it's taking up so much of my CPU. Like I've had this happen when I'm editing a video and I see my computer is running slow. I open the activity manager and I see that a certain task that I'm not using at all is taking up a lot of my CPU, my computer's brain power. So I close that task, and then once I do that, all the remaining opened up space can go into the project that I'm working on in that moment and make it run a lot faster. So it's the same thing that we're doing now. We're self-observing. We are observing our habitual thoughts, our habitual mind and its tendencies, its ways of being that has become accustomed to. We're observing those. And that's the first step, because what you observe here, these are the same thoughts that have given birth to that sickness in the first place. So becoming aware of them is the first step. So we're just becoming aware of what's going on in the background consciously and subconsciously. And so we're becoming aware. And now the second step, this is actually where the change will be initiated and take effect. So the second step is we have to access our subconscious mind and implant a new idea, a new possibility. So in this particular case of sickness, we are aiming to implant our subconscious mind with the idea of healing. And like I said, our subconscious mind is like this fertile soil. And then we're going to keep watering that idea day in and day out until it takes form, it takes root, it becomes, for lack of a better word, manifested, materialized. So the way we access our subconscious mind, the only way I know that's effective, that's within our power, that we can do consistently, is we have to meditate. So the way we do that is this. I have other videos on my channel where I give a process for meditation, so I will tag one up there. That one is about how to be present, basically, and meditation is the path that I suggest in that video. So I will tag that up there as one of the chapters in that video. I think at like 13-minute mark or so is about how to meditate. So that's going to be a more comprehensive guide on meditation itself. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to talk about the process of healing via meditation. So when you meditate, there is, this period of time that goes by. And again, this practice will literally only work if you're consistent. You can't just show up one day and expect it to, supernatural results and have healing happen. But supernatural results will come as a result of this process. When it's applied consistently, it will produce results. And the reason for that is because these habitual patterns and programs in our mind are so densely stuck that we just have to chip away at them day in and day out. The amount of force or power it would take for them to be undone in literally one instance, it's not that that's impossible. There's nothing impossible to the power of God and to the power of faith. Faith can move mountains, but for most people, we do not have yet that level of faith that's like a tsunami of faith, and it washes over all of that pattern and programming and gets rid of it in one moment. Miracles do happen, we see them all the time, especially in holy places. People go to a holy place and they truly believe this place will heal them, and boom, within an instant, they are healed from whatever ailment was affecting them. But that was because their faith was so strong in that moment that it did that. But for most of us, we have to show up consistently in our meditation practice to get the effects that we are after. So when meditating, there is this period of time. The way I see it is you're going through this tunnel. So when you get in meditation, you are literally walking into the tunnel. And you just have to keep going through it. So as you go in, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes go by, and you have to somewhat become skilled at meditation. So this may not happen within your first 7, 10, 15 meditations, but you have to be consistent and practice, and then over time, this will come into effect. So you're going through this tunnel, you're going through this period in meditation where your mind is running, there's these thoughts running around and it's not clear. But then you hit this point in the meditation, in this tunnel, where there is peace, there's stillness, there's quiet, and there is opportunity and possibility. It is as if that realm that you're in now, it is the realm of possibility where anything and everything is possible, because the hold of your habitual programmings and your ego has loosened. So your ego being this amalgamation of stories about who you are and what's possible, that's become like a loose garment. It's like fading. It's as if you're like floating in water, and like how you're like if you're a woman and you're wearing a dress, your dress is like floating in the water. It's like it's become loosened. It's not like tightly stuck to your body anymore. So our ego has become like that loose dress. It's not tightly clinging onto us. And because of that, it has created potential and opportunity for something new to become possible. So this is the realm of that fertile soil. This is where that place is. This is where we're going to implant that seed. The best example of it is literally just the fertile soil. Imagine a soil that is ready and ripe for planting a seed. It's perfect. It's been made ready for that seed to be implanted. And we are implanting now in this state of possibility where we are not so tied down. So, see, it's one thing to just say affirmations, right? Like, I am healed, I am healed, I am healed. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't have any effect, but when that is done in the subconscious state, rather than just the conscious, when we're just doing it in the conscious state, let's say, or not in the meditative state, we are constantly running against or running up against our ego. And our ego is like this solidified wall of programs. And we keep ramming our head into this wall. And eventually we will probably break through, but a better way would be to maybe like have this wall suddenly somehow turn into like a liquid wall. And that's what meditation does. It like makes everything kind of more fluid. Like what was so rigid before is not so rigid anymore. And then when that's done, it's like this wall went from a solid state into a liquid state, and then we can easily break through. So I'm going to do that for example. We can easily break through the wall now. So when we do something like an affirmation in meditation, it's so much more powerful because that's the fertile soil. We're planting the seed, which is the idea. We're planting that seed now in that fertile soil instead of trying to literally plant it into a rock. So the way we're going to plant the seed is, once you're in that state, imagine yourself as fully healed, fully complete, fully whole, fully like lacking nothing. You're complete. You're abundant, you're healed, you're complete. And this, I mean, we're talking about healing now, but this literally can't apply to anything else. If it's money, let's say, imagine yourself abundant. Imagine yourself lacking nothing. And funny enough, and this is something that I would say is different in my approach than maybe approaches of some other people that teach this, like Dr. Joe Dispenza. He still, I'd say, sticks more to kind of like the secular version. But because I love the spiritual side, a little bit more, I say, he's still trying to play in that realm of science, right? But, he's a doctor. But for me, I like to kind of dive a little bit deeper in that spiritual side. And for me, the way I would say is, the way I do it is different than maybe that way, is when you get to that place where you're imagining yourself as healed and whole and complete, that is not just an imagination, in my viewpoint. It is actually a remembrance of your true soul or spirit. Your true self, who you truly are, is already that healed self, is already that complete self, that whole self, that abundant self, that self that is lacking nothing and is fully complete, fully provided for, fully taken care of, fully loved. That self it may start as an imagination first, but over time it will become more real and it will feel more like a remembrance rather than an imagination. So you're not imagining something that doesn't exist, you're remembering what is already there that you forgot. So that's kind of the change or the difference, I'd say, in my approach. But that's what's ultimately produced results for me. So again, follow your intuition, follow your own path, follow the Holy Spirit for yourself. But for me, I imagine the true qualities of my spirit, which I'll put up a chart right now. I'll, have it on the screen now. This is from one of my other videos called, basically the difference between the ego and the spirit. And this chart is from that video. So if you're interested in this chart, you can check that video out. But here you can see some qualities of the spirit. These are the natural states of our true self. When I say spirit, I really mean our truest self. This ego self is a costume that we're wearing. It's kind of like if the superhero, if Batman is putting on the Batman costume, well, he's actually Bruce Wayne. He's not Batman, And on a deeper level, he's his spirit, his true self, But basically, we're going to stick to the Bruce Wayne analogy. But underneath that costume, that ego, he is Bruce Wayne. Underneath the costume of our ego, we are our spirit. We are our true self. And that true self is already healed. It's already complete. So we are just imagining and remembering that. So at first, you go into meditation and you imagine yourself as healed. Once you get to that place of no mind, of possibility, of opportunity, of everything feels like it can be done. Once you're in that state, you start imagining yourself as healed, as complete, as whole. And ultimately as God created you. That's how you are in your natural essence. But you start imagining yourself as that. And you really feel it. Feeling is the secret, as Neville Goddard would say. Feeling is the key. Feeling is super important. You have to, Joe Dispenza would say, you would have to combine elevated emotion with like this idea. So like you have this idea of your healed self, and then you fully feel that. And to me, that'd be like, if this is a seed, you're coating it in like a super powerful like body of nutrients. And so when you're planting that seed, it's like supercharged. It like has like more power to it in order for it to grow. So elevated emotion, really feeling it with the seed. It's like paper, rock, and scissors. It's like this overpowers this, and it together, they really create that yin and yang. The yin or the yang being kind of like the seed, and the yin being the emotion. It's not that much different than the process of birthing a child, so the seed and the soil, these two together are needed for a new creation to be birthed in this reality that we are dwelling at, in this physical reality, let's say. So that's kind of the secret. So you remain in that state. You're imagining this possibility of healing. You're imagining yourself as healed. Again, like I said, this could be applied to abundance and a variety of other things, but you're imagining yourself as healed and whole. You're combining it with a strong emotion, and you feel it. Like it's not just an imagination anymore. It's real. You have to be in it until it becomes real. Like, dude, I am healed. Like I feel it. It's real. It's not just imagination. Stay in that state for a while, for however long it suits you. And then eventually, maybe after, I think when Joe Dispenza does his meditations, I've bought a few off of his website, which are incredible. If you want some powerful healing meditations, either go to Audible. I think you can find them on Audible, or go to Joe Dispenza's website, and buy his meditation, MP3s, his guided meditation MP3s, super powerful. But he kind of like spends 45 minutes. His meditations are like an hour and a half long. He spends 45 minutes trying to walk you to that place of possibility. It's like he keeps trying to loosen the hold of the ego over your mind, and he keeps loosening it, and then it becomes like that loose stress. He like reaches that fertile soil after 45 minutes, and then he spends like the next 30 minutes, or maybe like 10 minutes planting the seed, 10 minutes to 20 minutes feeling it, and then the last few minutes to get you out of that state. So you really go into it, you feel it, it's real, it's possible, it's done. It's kind of like Jesus said, like, whatever you imagine in your mind, believe that it is done, right? And it will be so. Believe that it's happened. It's real. It's done. It's a done deal. and then ease yourself out of that meditation, and then go back to it the next day. Keep repeating this process. And it may take 4 months. It may take many, who knows? I don't want to say, oh, this is going to heal you in 5 days, but it takes time, but it will take longer if you don't do anything. So, what's the alternative there? But it will take time. It takes time because our minds are so habituated in one way of being, right? So we have to keep chipping away at it. But once that traditional or habitual patterns of thought are broken down, then we can rebuild the new. And over time, it will take root and come to fruition. And like I said, it may take 4 months, it may take less, it may take whatever, but it will yield to fruits if applied persistently and consistently. That's just the way it works. And like I said, the reason for that is that the hold of our ego is strong, but related to how strong your faith is, it could possibly shorten that time. But ultimately, I feel like the will of God is, whatever time is the will of God, that's what ultimately will happen for you to have that. But basically, it's going to take time, but it's your faith that can, I feel like, change that time. Because a lot of times, the first 5 or 10 meditations you do, you may not have that strong of faith. So more power to you. You're showing up. You're doing these practices. You have a little willingness, a little faith will go so far, but you're becoming more and more practiced at the process of faith itself. You're building that faith muscle. You're exercising that faith muscle. And so that muscle will become stronger over time. So later, let's say you overcome this sickness in, let's say 4 months, whatever. The next time something happens, you may overcome it in 1 month, in a few weeks, in, whatever, in a few days, related to how strong your faith is in that process. So your faith can shorten or delay this, but don't be discouraged by that. Just keep showing up. Faith will be built over time, just like a muscle will be built over time. So that's something to keep in mind. But again, this process will yield fruits if you are committed to it and if you keep practicing it. And one last thing I wanted to mention, just to wrap up the computer analogy that we were using a lot in the beginning of the video. Just like if you're installing a Windows or any program onto a computer, you know how it has that bar, the progress bar. It shows how long, how many percentage it's gone by and how installed the thing is and how much longer it has left to go. It's kind of like that. So imagine at the 0 line, this is you being sick right now, not feeling well. And then this 100% line is you being completely healed and whole. Your meditations will keep adding to this bar. So the first meditation is adds 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar, 4 bar, 5 bar, and it goes all the way, whatever the sound effect was I just made, and it goes all the way, and eventually, boom, one day you hit that 100% point, and then boom, your program is installed. You are uninstalling old programs while simultaneously installing a new one. It's kind of like a Windows. If you're literally installing an operating system, Windows, you have to go to the pre-boot, pre-conscious part of your computer first. Again, that's your subconscious mind. So you go into that pre-boot state, the recovery state or whatever it's called in Windows terms. You install the new program while simultaneously the computer will uninstall the old one. So you're uninstalling the old Windows, you're adding the new, you're installing the new. Exactly what we're doing, and it's going to take time, but just keep, the process, just let the process play itself out, and in due time, your healing will come. Great song by Trevor Hall is called You Can't Rush Your Healing. And if YouTube didn't have copyright, I would probably play it right now. But because it does, I'm not going to. Look that song up, and honestly, any Trevor Hall song, his songs are amazing. And that song, You Can't Rush Your Healing, is just a good reminder of you can't rush your healing. Let it take its time, but keep showing up and believing in the process, and it will work. To kind of wrap up the video, like I said in the beginning of the video, I recommend, these are some book recommendations. I recommend any book by Dr. Joe Dispenza. But a perfect book to start with regarding sickness specifically, I'd say is You Are the Placebo. Just that name alone says so much. If you just think about the placebo effect, how could it be that somebody takes a fake pill and they are healed. Like, how the heck does that happen? Well, he talks about how that happens, and he studies the placebo effect in that book and talks about it. Well, what is the placebo effect? It's the faith that was invested in that pill. A person is getting a treatment. They really believe this treatment will work, and that pill, that treatment will bring about results, even if it's not a real pill, right? So how much of any pill is placebo? Who knows, right? But the faith part is, he's just highlighting how important the faith invested in that process is in order for it to produce fruits. And in this case, healing. So you are the placebo, breaking the habit of being yourself. Again, phenomenal book title. We are in this habit of being a certain way, feeling these certain emotions, thinking these certain thoughts all the time. These habitual programs are running in the background. How can we break that habit? He talks about that in that book. And I think this book you should save for last. If you read the other two, you are becoming supernatural is the name of the book. Save this one for last because it's a little bit more woo-woo and spiritual, which is, super right up my alley. But if you're just focused on healing, just focus on the other two first. However, his meditations, like I said, his MP3 meditations on his website and Audible are just so good. So you have to get those. I feel like if you get the books, you have to get those too, because that's where the real fruit will come from. That's the real process. So those are the books I recommend, but also I recommend more on the spiritual side. I'd say the Course in Miracles, or A Course in Miracles, which is the spiritual path that I follow and subscribe to. And that course, like the name says, A Course in Miracles, will literally, if followed and understood and applied, will help you produce miracles, because it will teach you we are only subject to what we hold in mind. It keeps saying that. It keeps reaffirming that. And it will help you in just so many ways. But it is literally like that program, calling it a program is actually a good thing, because it's accurate. It's literally like installing a new software program onto your computer. Like if you have Windows, this is going to show my age. If you have Windows XP, this is like installing a Linux or a Mac operating system onto that. Like it's a completely different thought system. So this thought system of Windows is going to be completely overridden by this thought system of the Mac. In this case, A Course in Miracles. It's going to override like your thought system now. And it's just a complete thought system. It takes a lot more dedication and effort to really get into it and understand it. But for those, if it calls to you, you probably will know it. If it catches your intrigue, that book is the second book I recommend, or I guess technically the fourth book I recommend you guys check out related to healing. So I hope that this video helped you. Again, I want to reaffirm that do not shy away from taking medicine, taking vitamins, taking treatments that call to you, that you feel right about, whether it's alternative medicine, normal medicine, Western medicine, whatever it may be. Do not shy away from that, because although I'm a firm believer that all healing comes from the mind, some people become way too hardcore and rigid about that, where they're like, no medicine, never, that's blasphemy. Like, no, like that actually may cause trauma for someone who's not ready for this type of work, this type of healing. So take the medicine, but realize where the true healing will come from. But also, what sometimes the medicine may do is that it will help our mind. So the mind really being the true cause of the healing, the medicine may aid the mind. So the medicine, you take the medicine and you're like a few months ago, I was not feeling too well. And although I know all this stuff, I was like, bro, I'm going to take some multivitamins. Like I'm going to drink some green juice, because it would make me feel better. And then when I feel better, I can think better. And I know all healing comes from the mind, and I'm only subject to what I hold in mind. But that process of that green juice and those supplements, they're going to make me feel better so I can think better. And then ultimately by thinking better, now that I'm just feeling better, my mind can think better, then I know that the fruit will come from where it actually will come from, which is the mind. So the medicine can play a phenomenal role in that process. But just know that ultimately the healing will come from the mind. So that's pretty much that. Don't be afraid to take medicine, pursue alternative healing or healing, whatever modality calls to you. but just know how that process works. The medicine may make you feel better, which makes you think better, which through thinking better and feeling better, you can change your mind over time, and the healing will be produced by your mind, but the medicine played its part in bringing that about. So that's kind of what I want to say in closing. Again, I hope that this video helps you a ton. I know it has helped me, just understanding that kind of this is how it works. Just knowing that is so powerful, and it can completely change your life in so many areas, not just health, not just healing. And shout out to the awesome subscriber of my channel that recommended to me this topic to make this video about. If you have any questions, any videos you want me to work on, any questions you want me to answer for you, please feel free to comment those ideas. I read them, I take them into consideration, and they inspire me to show up here and produce awesome content for you. So thank you for watching this video. Again, my name is PJ. I think I forgot to say that at the beginning of the video, but if you're watching this on the PJ Body channel, you probably already knew that. Thank you. If you're interested in working with me one-on-one, I offer one-on-one coaching. The link to that is in the description. In that platform, in that context, we can go a lot more deeply into all of these topics, all the stuff I just talked about, and make them personalized for you so that their effectiveness can be maximized to the max, as Elon Musk would say, to the moon. So I hope that helps you. I hope to see you within that container and that coaching platform and service. And lastly, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I care about subscribe more than like, to be honest, but either way, it all helps and more people can see that video through doing those actions. So thank you. I hope to see you next time, and until then, take care.